How old is too old for a Formula 1 driver? There's no definitive answer, and over the years several star names approaching or way past their 40th birthday have achieved great things. In 2021, Fernando Alonso will turn 40 while making his comeback with Renault, and perhaps he'll take heart from seeing what some other drivers have done at the back end of their careers. Before we get on with our countdown, remember to like this video if you like it, and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to show your support to the race, and make sure you never miss another video. Riccardo PATRESE held the record for the most starts in F1 for 15 years before it was broken by Rubens Barrichello in 2008. The Italian's final season with Benetton wasn't stellar, but he still finished 5th in the championship, picking up 2 podiums along the way. The following year he was in the running to return to Williams at the age of 40 following the death of Ayrton Senna, but he eventually chose to rule himself out before the team made a decision. Nelson Piquet's final F1 victory was a fortunate one, picking up on Nigel Mansell's either unlucky or calamitous retirement in the final moments of the 1991 Canadian Grand Prix. It made Piquet a race winner at the age of 38, and he picked up the final podium of his career after his 39th birthday. But by the end of the year his time was up. Benetton had snatched superstar in the making Michael Schumacher from Jordan, and he was the team's future from the moment he arrived. Clay Regazzoni will forever be remembered as the man who took the first F1 win for Williams in 1979 at the age of 39. That day at Silverstone served as a throwback to his prime years earlier in the decade with Ferrari, but few would begrudge him the good fortune of seeing teammate Alan Jones retire from the lead. Regazzoni claimed 2 more podiums as a 40-year-old later that season, and he continued into 1980 with Ensign until a heavy crash at Long Beach left him paralysed below the waist. Even Kimi Räikkönen said finally when he took his 21st F1 win in 2018, having just turned 39, more than 5 years on from his previous victory with Lotus. What will surely be the final win of Räikkönen's career came late in the year at Austin, when he already knew he was losing his drive to Charles Leclerc for the following season. He came out on top in a strategic battle with Lewis Hamilton, having been bumped up to the front row thanks to a grid penalty for teammate Sebastian Vettel. He took 2 more podiums before the end of the year, beating Max Verstappen to 3rd in the championship by just 2 points. Carlos Reutemann put together a title challenge at the age of 39 with Williams in 1981, and were it not for an underwhelming performance in the Las Vegas decider, he could have beaten Nelson Piquet to the crown. Reutemann considered retirement that winter but came back for 1982. He put in one of the drives of his career to finish 2nd in the opener at Kyalami, but after one more race he decided to call time on F1 after all. At that point he was 3rd in the standings, 5 places ahead of new teammate Keke Rosberg, who went on to be crowned champion in one of F1's craziest seasons. Prost was 38 when he took his 4th World Championship with Williams in 1993. The dominance of the FW15C that year meant it wasn't his toughest title, but there were times in the season where the challenges from Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill required Prost to show what he was still capable of. Winning a World Championship at any age is a formidable achievement, although Prost's ranking here is reflective of him being one of the younger drivers in this list. He was all signed up to race for another year with Williams in 1994, but he ended up accepting to be paid to stay at home when the team signed Senna. He flirted with a return to McLaren instead, before deciding on the eve of the season to stay on the sidelines. Jacques Laffite was still capable of taking podium finishes for Ligier well into his 40s when his career was ended by injuries sustained in a nasty first corner crash at Brands Hatch in 1986. In his final 2 seasons he'd taken 5 podiums, and by the time of his accident he was 6th in the 1986 standings. Laffite had no intention of quitting F1 and even hoped to make a comeback once he'd recovered, but the opportunity never arose and he took to sports cars and the DTM instead. Michael Schumacher's F1 comeback with Mercedes was never a match for his first career, but his most eye-catching achievements came in his final season as a 43-year-old. Schumacher set the fastest time in qualifying for the 2012 Monaco Grand Prix, but was denied the chance to start from the 69th pole position of his career due to a grid penalty he'd picked up for colliding with Bruno Senna at the Spanish Grand Prix. It's easy to assume he could have won the race, but Schumacher's car broke down after 63 laps, which would have been all the more heartbreaking if he'd been in the lead at the time. He did get to spray champagne once more though, taking the only podium finish of his return 2 races later in Valencia. Mario Andretti was an IndyCar race winner in his 50s in the early 1990s, but a decade earlier he'd put in a heroic performance for Ferrari at Monza of all places. Towards the end of the tragic 1982 season, where Ferrari had been rocked by the death of Gilles Villeneuve and serious injuries to Didier Pironi, Andretti returned at the age of 42 for the final 2 races of the year. The first of those was the Italian Grand Prix, where he took a stunning pole position. He's convinced the race would have been a cruise if he'd not suffered a turbo problem, but he had to make do with the 3rd step on the podium in his penultimate F1 start. Nigel Mansell was 39 when he won the F1 title in 1992, and a year later he followed it up by winning the IndyCar Championship at the first attempt. For a week before Prost took the 1993 F1 crown, Mansell held both titles, which would be enough on its own for him to make this list. But there's more. In 1994, Mansell answered the call from Williams and Bernie Ecclestone to make a handful of appearances following the death of Ayrton Senna. At the Adelaide season finale, he stunned title protagonists Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill by beating them to pole position, and then ran 3rd behind them in the race until they collided. That left Mansell clear to become the first F1 race winner over 40 since 1970, an achievement that hasn't been matched since. When do you think we'll see another driver over 40 win a race, or even get onto the podium? Tell us what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Race if you like what we're doing and want to see more videos from us in the future.